So here's an interesting fact. The average East Asian foot is a slightly different shape to the average European foot. People from China, Japan, Korea, etc. tend to have a broader forefoot for any foot length. That means when Western reviewers like me come along and say that Li-Ning shoes tend to have a narrow heel area, a narrow midfoot, and a nice, broad, comfy forefoot, we're not imagining it. The good news is that for people like me and for a lot of you, people who have a broader forefoot as well, these tend to be a perfect match in terms of fit. Fortunately for me, the Li-Ning Feidian 6 Challenger is also really fast. Let's chat. Hi there, I'm Chris, dad to Benny and Sam, husband to Jenny, and a journalist who loves nothing more than cutting through the marketing hype to tell it like it really is. And today I'm talking about the Li-Ning Feidian 6 Challenger. This is a shoe that's promoted as an up-tempo shoe for fast-paced training, for interval sessions, and for racing. And that description is pretty much spot on. It's actually a shoe that doesn't really like going slow, and you won't like going slow in it. When you're plodding along in this shoe, it's quite a firm ride, very stable, but not very forgiving. It's not a fun, comfy shoe. It's all about performance, all about going fast. And once you start going fast, once you start pushing the pace, it really comes alive. In this way, it reminds me of the Asics Magic Speed 5 and the Puma Deviate Nitro 3 and the 4, which I don't actually have, but I'm sure it's a banger. These two are shoes that are best saved for fast training days, as opposed to long runs, easy runs, or do-it-all sessions. For my Feidian 6 Challengers, I paid 200 Australian dollars shipped from Hong Kong. But from what many of you have told me during my previous shoe reviews, it is probably available a lot cheaper. And I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Have you purchased the Feidian 6 Challenger? And if so, what did you pay and where did you get it from? Still 200 Aussie dollars. What a bargain for such a high quality, spectacular shoe. And by the way, if you do get anything out of reviews from a little channel that pays for all of its own shoes, please tap like and subscribe. That really helps us a lot. Thanks so much. The Feidian 6 Challenger in my size US 9.5 weighs in at 219 grams on my dodgy kitchen scales. That's 7.72 ounces. It has an 8mm drop from 38mm at the back to 30mm at the front, and it has a very stiff but very light carbon plate running throughout the shoe between two layers of foam. The upper layer is softer, springier Super Boom foam, and the lower layer is firmer and more stable beaded boom foam. The outsole contains a very generous covering of very sticky rubber, which also is mercifully quiet. The upper material is beautifully engineered, very racy, completely non-stretch, but very, very breathable. And I suffered no hot spots at all anywhere around my foot. The laces are no fuss. They do their job perfectly, and they're a great length. If anything, they're probably a little bit too long, but that's better than too short. And the fully gusseted tongue is very lightly padded just around the areas where the laces are most likely to rub against the top of your foot. And finally, the heel cup, it's not minimal, but it's not overly padded. It's just a perfect level of structure and comfort. The feeling of lockdown in this shoe is astounding. And I think that's because the slightly narrower heel and midfoot combined with this incredibly high quality upper hold the back and middle of your foot down very, very strongly against this foam, while the broader forefoot allows your toes to move around and splay a little bit more than usual. It's not a super broad forefoot, it's just comfortable for people like me with a slightly broad foot. If you know that you have a broader heel or midfoot, I would recommend going up half a size in these shoes. I didn't. I went for my usual US 9.5 and they fit perfectly, but I think if I went up to a US size 10, that would also be very comfortable and it would not do anything negative to the running experience. That's what I did in the Li-Ning Red Hair 9 Ultras and that worked really nicely for me too. So for me, in Li-Ning, US 9.5 and US 10 both do the trick nicely. On the road, the Feidian 6 Challenger is a fussy beast. It has no real patience for slow running. And as I said, when you are moving slowly, it provides a very firm, not very springy or cushioned ride. But as I also said, when you do start putting the power down, whether you're a heel striker or a forefoot striker, that's when the challengers really start to give back. Suddenly, the foam begins to compress and rebound at an amazing speed. There's a noticeable pop from the carbon plate with each step, and the shoes and your feet and legs in general suddenly start feeling much lighter when you start moving faster. I am currently in the early stages of a training block for my next half marathon. Yesterday morning I had to go out and do a very fast interval session. The challengers made the ridiculously fast bits of this run an absolute breeze. But then on the slow recovery portions, I found myself wishing for a little bit more comfort. And that's the trade-in with the Feidian 6 Challenger. At speed, it is the shoe you want on your feet. When you're not at speed, it's just not as comfy as some. But that's okay. That's what the Li-Ning Feidian 6 Challenger is all about. It's for fast training sessions, and it suits that role perfectly. Some say they're also made for racing, and I'm not sure if I would agree. Perhaps up to a distance of 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers, they'd be a really good match for racing. But as soon as you move out to those half marathon or full marathon distances, I don't think these would be a good friend once you start losing form and once you start slowing down a little bit near the end of those events. But for training for those events, for use during your training block, and for keeping your racing shoes fresh for the actual race, they are absolutely perfect. They are a brilliant fast training partner. And so that's what I think the Feidian 6 Challengers are made for. They're light, snappy, firm, stable, and really quick. So would I recommend the Feidian 6 Challenger to everybody? No, I wouldn't recommend it to everybody, but yes, I would recommend it to those who enjoy a firm, fast shoe and who want a perfect partner for that very specific task of fast sessions. It's also just beautifully and flawlessly designed and manufactured. The quality is about as good as it gets, particularly considering the price. That shouldn't be a surprise from a brand like Li-Ning that's had a physical store in just about every Chinese mall, but I'm just always very impressed with these shoes. They are noticeably premium, as I said, particularly considering the price and also the weight, or lack of weight. So that's it for the Li-Ning Feidian 6 Challenger, a speedy shoe that doesn't suffer slow jogs. Once again, if you appreciate honest reviews from a channel that buys all of its own shoes, please do like and subscribe. Run well. I'll see you next week.